The chandeliers sparkled like a galaxy of frozen stars, hanging high above the grand ballroom. Their cold light spilled across an ocean of crystal glasses, golden cutlery, and polished marble floors. Here, the city's richest and most powerful had gathered to celebrate another year of their own success. Soft violin music drifted through the air, a gentle soundtrack for champagne-fueled laughter and whispered deals that could build or break fortunes. For the elite men in their sharp tuxedos and the elegant women in shimmering gowns, this was just another night, another stage for displaying their wealth. But for one young woman moving silently between the tables, her simple uniform a stark contrast to the glitter, this was the night that would change everything. Her name was Sophia, a 23-year-old waitress whose eyes held dreams far larger than the world she inhabited. She moved with an unconscious grace, balancing heavy trays of sparkling drinks, a polite smile fixed on her face. But beneath that smile, her heart carried a weight far heavier than any tray. She wasn't born into this world of privilege. She had no powerful connections to lean on. What she possessed was a quiet strength, the kind forged in the fires of hardship, through nights of gnawing hunger, through days filled with the sting of rejection, and through years of watching her mother work to the point of exhaustion just to keep a small roof over their heads. Tonight, she had come to this gala not just for the paycheck, but with a hidden ache deep inside her. Music was the love of her life, and dance was the language her soul spoke most fluently. But the world had never offered her a stage, only shadowed corners in her tiny apartment where she could dance when no one was watching. She had learned to bury this passion beneath work aprons and plastic name tags, forcing herself to believe that dreams were a luxury reserved for the wealthy. But destiny, it seemed, had a different script written for her this evening. The night wore on, a blur of faces and polite nods, until a hush fell over the room. The host introduced the man of the hour, Adrian Steele. His name was a symbol of power in every corner of the city. His face was a regular feature on magazine covers, and his empire stretched from towering skyscrapers to cutting-edge technology. Tall, confident, and almost impossibly handsome, he strode into the spotlight with the easy arrogance of a man who believed the world was created for his pleasure. The guests erupted in applause, but Sophia barely noticed, her focus on placing a fresh tray of champagne on a table near the stage. Adrian was known not only for his immense wealth, but also for his sharp, cutting tongue and the dismissive way he viewed those outside his exclusive circle. And tonight, as fate would have it, his cold eyes landed directly on Sophia. Perhaps it was the way she moved, with a dancer's poise that no waitress had any business possessing. Or perhaps it was the flicker of fire in her eyes, which he misinterpreted as defiance. Whatever the reason, a cruel smirk spread across Adrian's face, and he raised his voice, loud enough for the entire hall to hear. "Careful there, waitress. With the way you're gliding around, people might think you're trying to dance." A wave of polite, cruel laughter rippled through the crowd. Sophia froze, a hot blush creeping up her neck, her fingers trembling so badly she nearly dropped the tray. She wanted the marble floor to swallow her whole, to simply disappear. But a core of steel deep within her refused to let the shame consume her. She lifted her chin, forced a small, tight smile, and pretended his words hadn't pierced her like tiny daggers. Seeing her unbroken pride, Adrian leaned back, his grin widening. "You know what? Prove me right," he challenged, his voice dripping with mockery. "Why don't you show us a little dance? Or is that too much to ask from someone like you?" The crowd chuckled again, their murmurs filling the air like buzzing insects. It was a public humiliation, a cruel game disguised as entertainment. For Sophia, it felt like the brightest, most painful spotlight imaginable. The billionaire wanted to put her in her place, to remind her that she was just a servant among kings and queens. But the universe had been waiting for this exact moment, and somewhere deep inside, so had she. As if on cue, the music shifted. The orchestra, seemingly conspiring with destiny, struck up a lively, passionate tune. Sophia's heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drum beat of fear and adrenaline. Every rational thought screamed at her to say no, to walk away, to let the laughter die down. But then, a memory surfaced. Her mother's tired but loving voice, always whispering, "You were born to shine, my love. They can push you down, but they can't stop your soul from rising." With trembling fingers, Sophia placed the tray down on the nearest table. The laughter grew, but the rhythm of her own heart grew louder still. She took a deep breath and stepped forward into the center of the ballroom, the brilliant light of the chandeliers spilling over her like a celestial blessing. For a single, fleeting second, an expectant silence fell over the room. And then she moved. Her body flowed into the music with a breathtaking grace that instantly silenced every laugh. Every step, every twirl, every fluid gesture told a story that words could never capture. She spun with the fierce elegance of the chandeliers above her, her dark braids flying as her arms carved shapes of pure beauty into the air. It felt as if the music itself was bending to her will, lifting her higher with each powerful beat. Gasps replaced the chuckles. Whispers of mockery turned into stunned, absolute silence. Even Adrian's smug smirk had vanished, his eyes wide with disbelief. He couldn't comprehend what he was seeing. The simple waitress he had tried to shame was no longer a servant carrying trays. She was a queen, commanding her stage, her spirit finally, completely unshackled and free. Sophia lost herself in the dance. Every suppressed dream, every forgotten hope, came flooding out of her like a river breaking through a dam. She wasn't dancing for the glittering crowd or for the billionaire who had tried to crush her. She was dancing for every lonely night she had cried herself to sleep. She was dancing for every door that had been slammed in her face, for every no she had ever been told. This was her truth. This was her rebellion. This was her victory. When the final dramatic note of the music struck, Sophia ended with a graceful bow, her chest heaving, sweat glistening on her forehead like diamonds. For a long moment, a profound silence reigned. Then, as if the entire room had woken from a spell, a thunderous applause erupted. People leaped to their feet, clapping, cheering, their faces filled with awe. The ballroom that had mocked her just moments before now celebrated her. Adrian Steele, the billionaire who had orchestrated her humiliation, remained frozen in his chair. His jaw was tight, and his eyes held an emotion he had never felt before: humility. He had underestimated her, and now he could do nothing but watch as the world applauded the very person he had tried to break. For the first time in his life, his immense wealth and power felt utterly meaningless in the face of such raw, undeniable talent. That night, Sophia walked out of the gala, not as a waitress, but as a woman reborn. The same guests who had once looked through her now whispered her name with reverence. The orchestra's conductor, his eyes filled with wonder, rushed to her side, promising to connect her with people who could give her the real stage she so richly deserved. Adrian himself tried to approach her, to offer a clumsy apology, but Sophia simply met his gaze and offered a small, knowing smile that said more than words ever could. "I know my worth now." In the weeks that followed, doors that had always been bolted shut began to swing open. Sophia was invited to perform, to teach, to share her gift. Soon the city knew her not by the name tag on her uniform, but as the dancer who had turned a billionaire's cruelty into her moment of triumph. Her life changed, but she never forgot the shadows she had emerged from. She danced not for fame or fortune, but for the little girl inside her who once believed dreams were impossible, and for every other soul still waiting for their chance to step into the light. Her story became a quiet, powerful reminder that sometimes the greatest stages of our lives are not built for us, but are the ones we claim for ourselves, especially in those moments when the world tries to silence us and we choose to dance anyway.